Let me give you a quick introduction to myself. I'm Bonker. I'm Director of Certification Compliance for the OPC Foundation. I'm a consultant. I do a lot of other things too for all OPC UA related. But let's talk about certification and compliance today. Let's see if Alex gave me the rights to click on his screen. Yes, okay. So let's talk a little bit about why certification is important. In the world of standards, everybody can read the standard differently. So it's not always the same. It's an English standard. So there's a different quality of interpretation of the specifications. And also vendors have a different level of quality in their own products. So some of them do a better job than others at checking the quality that their products have. So what we found is that without a certification program, there are interoperability issues, that people don't build things that actually communicate. The other thing we've found is that in certification, you want to be able to certify things not just at an academic level, but also in real world environments. That you want to make sure not just that the communications works for, simple successful cases, but what happens when the network breaks? How do products recover? What happens when there's other communications problems? So the certification aspect of testing is that I want to test not just success, but failure cases too. We also, as Uni and several other presenters have mentioned, there's more to OPCUA than just communications. We have information models and the capability of supporting companion specs and other information descriptions. You want to certify that those models work as directed and described too, not just that I can send a message from A to B. So all of this is stuff that OPCUA does cover in certification. So we have test case definitions that describe what we're testing. We have test tools that will run some, although not all, of our test cases automatically. Some testing is hard to do automatically, so there are some manual tests. We host interoperability events for certification. Why? Well, we've found, especially for clients, that it's very important that you have other applications you can try your application against. So interoperability event allows a large number of users to get together and check that their systems will interoperate. We also have, of course, the formal certification testing that Alex will provide quite a bit more details on, but it provides you a environment for doing a formal certification testing. So a test lab with rigorous testing and a formal set of testing. Testing is scaled, by the way, too. As everybody's mentioned, that there are many facets to OPCUA. There's many different profiles, many different functionalities, and testing is scaled to these functionalities. So as I think Uwe and both Uni described, there's a set of profiles out there, and they describe what you group functionality according to what your server may be, or server or client may be able to do. Profiles are composed of conformance units. So conformance units are individual testable items. So there's a large number of conformance units typically make up most profiles. And then each conformance unit has a series of tests that define the testing for that conformance unit. So you can see all these on the Foundation's website. They provide a simple way of looking at things. But let's go through sort of an example. I may build a device that just uses an embedded server profile. It has a few low-level communications pieces, maybe a simple address space. It has security. Maybe, though, we have a larger server that has more performance requirements even stated, has session counts and items. So in the test lab, we'll test all of these profiles. We also can test all of the other base OPC UA profiles. So we can handle event subscriptions and methods and historical access. So we test all the different facets that are out there. We even can add specific companion spec certifications, and we'll work through those as we get to it. PubSub is a new communications profile. It also has a configuration interface. So all of these are profiles that exist in OPC UA. For a full list, as I think Uni showed, we have a website that has the detailed profile reporting available. But one of the key features that maybe wasn't mentioned is that on this web page, there's the test cases portion for the conformance units. So every profile you pick lists what the conformance units are in it. You probably want to also show conformance units that are from included profiles, since some profiles are nested, as you can see on the left. But the key thing is for every conformance unit that's included, there's a list of test cases that you can click on, and it'll show you all the test cases available for that profile. So, all of our stuff is publicly available. The process for certifications on the Foundation's web pages, and you can go walk through and see what it is you need to do for certification, and all the profiles and details are there. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Alexander, who's director of our European certification lab. Alex?
Yep, thanks, Paul. So I'm going to talk a bit more about what is actually covered by the OPC Foundation certification program and also some organizational topics. But let's start with what is actually being tested. So we separate the testing in 5 different sectors. One, and the quite obvious one, is compliance. In the compliance sector, we test that the product is really compliant with the OPC UA core specifications, but also to some amount with the companion specifications, as much as they already have test cases defined and have a certification program established. The second sector is the interoperability. In interoperability, we ensure that the product is interoperable with other products, so with products from other vendors. That means that we select wisely communication partners for the product that is under test. So we ensure that we use products from other SDK vendors, that we use products with other programming languages and different hardware platforms to really ensure that an end user will have interoperability in their own systems at the end. The third sector is the robustness. In robustness, as Paul already mentioned, we ensure that products are behaving well in trouble scenarios. So basically when a connection break is happening, but not just a connection break between the OPC UA communication partners, but also to underlying devices. So for all those cases, we really ensure that the product gets back up and provides the correct error codes and quality codes for everything, so an end user can do investigations at the end. In the fourth section, the efficiency test, that is our long-term test. So in this case, we are monitoring certain parameters like a CPU usage, memory, but also handles and threads, and we connect as a minimum of 5 different products to the product under test, and then we ensure that everything is set up with a real load. So if the product claims to support 50,000 changing tags, then we use those 50,000 changing tags to really ensure that it is behaving correctly. And then we intermit the connection on one OPC UA communication partner, but also to one underlying data source, which could be a sensor, for example. And by doing that, we ensure that there are no leaks and the product will run for the end users for a long time. In the last sector, the usability, we ensure a good user experience. And that basically means that we take a look at the documentation that is shipped with the product, but also manuals. The idea here is to ensure that difficult topics that we know that are not very intuitive to end users, like certificate handling. Already heard about security and that you need to exchange certificates to get this working. So whether those structures are really good defined and the end user has access to all the information that he needs. So after you got through all or went through all those testing, you basically get your certification marks. So you can always look for the certified for compliance, which is the only quality statement that we have. So that is the one that you need to look for. But also, we provide a paperwise version of the certificate. For end users, we provide, as Juni already pointed out, all the certificate information in the product catalog of the OPC Foundation website. So what you can basically do is go to the OPC Foundation website and take a look at what exact features have been certified, which profiles, additional facets, but also security policies and user tokens. So you can ensure interoperability between the products that you want to use in your system already beforehand. At that point in time, we often get the question on how do I get prepared? And I'm going to guide you through the different areas where you get information and how you can actually prepare yourself. So the first thing, quite obvious, is on the OPC Foundation website, we provide all the information that you need to get certified. There are no hidden secrets. Everything is publicly available. There are guidelines, there are instructions for testing categories, walkthrough tutorials, organizational information. Everything is already online available beforehand. But in order to really see what you need to test by yourself, to get a list of the test cases, as Paul already pointed out, you need to start to get a list of all the supported features of your product. So you need to create a list of the supported profiles. Am I talking about a nano-embedded device, which in most cases is a sensor, or rather like an HMI SCADA system, so I'm a standard UA server? Do I support additional facets like methods, alarms and events, or conditions, auditing, or data access, which is often implemented by devices? And then even I need to check, do I support any optional conformance units? Is there anything that is special to my product? For example, data access percent deadband. And after I collected all those information, I can see what test cases I need to execute. And the good message here is that we do have a testing tool that helps you executing at least the portion of tests that can be automated. So that is what we call CTT. The CTT validates OPC UA services, but also the address space of the server. So we really walk through the whole address space and ensure that you are compliant. We also validate the different security aspects like signing, encryption, username, password connections, and all of that. And we do that with more than 1,000 automated test scripts. But the CTT also has been built with having in mind that end users or vendors would actually like to extend it. So you can add your own settings, you can add your own test scripts and test specific behavior for your own product. And you can also integrate the CTT in your CI system. And the best part of that is that this tool is not only available to corporate members of the OPC Foundation, but is also available to logo members. The next thing is, because there are manual test cases for the reason of having special scenarios, for example, connection breaks, that you cannot automate, you need to execute those manual test cases manually by your own test personnel. And then after you did all of that, you can apply for certification without any fear, because you very much ensured that everything is compliant and working well. In this case, you also already have collected all the information that we are asking for in the application request form, which is available on the OPC Foundation website. So let's talk about the organizational topics real quick. So we already discussed how you prepare for the testing and that you need to register for the testing. But what happens afterwards? So after we receive your registration, we will create an estimate for the testing. And that is the first thing that is very special to OPC UA certification testing, because we only provide an estimate. That means if we estimate 5 days of testing, but we only need 3 days for certifying your product, you are only invoiced for those 3 days. So it's not like a lump sum price that you always need to pay. With that estimate, you can order the testing, and we are going to schedule the testing to appropriate time slots for the lab and the vendor. And then obviously you submit your product. We usually recommend to send your product to the lab 1 week in advance of the certification time. And that is another very special thing with OPC UA certification testing, because when we conduct testing and we will find issues, we are not only providing you feedback that you failed on test case 42, but we also provide guidance. We tell you what is actually wrong. Why did you behave wrong? What do you need to change in order to be compliant? We are not doing code reviews, but we provide you guidance and help you find the correct information that you can find everything you need by yourself. And we do that in an iterative approach as long as we need, so you get finally certified at the end. What you get after you have been certified is a test summary, and that is the one that I can only encourage end users to always ask for, because that provides a good overview, like it is already provided in the product catalog, but that is a paper-wise official version as well, and that provides more information about on which system was it tested, what was the hardware platform, which features have been tested, but also for the interoperability section, what reference products have been used for verifying interoperability. As a second part, there is the test report, the records, and that is really a high detailed list of test cases and results. So that is usually just too detailed for end users. That's not the kind of information that you are interested in. And also for the efficiency test, we provide the graphs that we generated during the efficiency test for the handles, memory usage, and threads. And with all this information, you basically have all you need to prove that you are compliant. And with that, I thank you for your attention, and we are open to questions.